There we go. Well, welcome to the show, Pablo. I'm really looking forward to hearing your journey and your story. And because you're new in the podcast, why don't you go ahead and kind of introduce yourself, give us your background and what you've been up to. And again, take your time. There's no rush.
Sure. Thanks for having me on. It's really a pleasure to be on here. I've been watching you guys for a while, so it's like kind of starstruck. Yeah, my name is Pablo Zambrano. I'm coming to you guys from Central Florida, Polk County, Auburndale. And really, I'm just an average Joe compost enthusiast. And yeah, compost enthusiast, backyard gardener. Got a 9 to 5. I'm a fire alarm installer by day and a composter by night. That's what I'm doing.
Love it. What inspired you to get into compost?
Yeah, wow. What inspired me? I think that really trails back to like 2016. Really, politics got me. I was a rebel without a cause. I got into politics like 2016. I was a Bernie bro per se, and not to get into like the political space. I don't choose any side anymore. But at that time, I was however old I was at that time, and I was just trying to look for something to be active. An activist. And then after that whole election, I just kind of became like disenfranchised and I became a rebel without a cause. I didn't know like, where to put this energy, what I mean, this excitement. So ultimately, I started realizing that I had to take action in things that really, was worthwhile. And so I did an apprenticeship. Um, I did an apprenticeship, farming apprenticeship in 2019 at a farm called Hellgate Farm. The farmer's name is Rob. Shout out to Rob. Um, and I started getting into like rooftop gardening. They had a CSA. It was in Queens, New York, and I was just like blown away. Like, holy cow, this is crazy. And then shortly after that, I moved to Florida, 2020, right during the pandemic. Actually, I'll back up real quick, but during that apprenticeship, I was actually on paternal leave, so I was quite a rebel. I was just like, on paternal leave. It was like two days out of the week I was doing this apprenticeship, and I was just super inspired. So then later after that, I moved to Florida, and I didn't really have a space to garden. I didn't have like I had a couple excuses. I was like, I'm an all or nothing type of person. So I didn't want to be in a container. Like I didn't want to do like a raised bed thing. And I was like, all right, since I don't have the space for this, you know what? Let me dive into this thing called composting. So I built a tumbler composter with a bunch of friends of mine. And uh, then not long after that, I got into worm composting. And yeah, composting was just a gateway. And I just started like going from one thing to the next and seeing different iterations. And I'm so grateful that it started with the soil. I think a lot of our story is an illustration. And the fact that it really started with the soil for me was a huge foundational moment for me. And I'm a huge enthusiast because of that, and I always circle back to the soil, through that. So that's kind of like the story of how I got into it. It's just it started as a rebellion, just wanted to get into something that made a change.
Hey, I'm going to make a statement. I hope you don't get offended. But once you go soil, you never go back.
That's a fact. That is so true. And now I am just like trying to shout from the rooftops, just trying to get people. It's so funny. I remember when I got down here to Florida, I was trying to find, in my area, Polk County, I was just like eager, the same way I did the apprenticeship in New York. I'm just trying to find like who can teach me, where can I learn something? And I couldn't really find a lot of avenues. So I did a lot of traveling. I went hours away from my home to, I went to Orlando, all different types of places just to find where I could learn. At that time, lot of, there was a lot of time. Everybody had, that's all we had at that time. So I was doing a lot of traveling, trying to figure things out. And I gathered a lot of that information, that intel, and I was like still wanting someone to lead me, like in my local area. I'm like, okay, who's here? Who's gonna teach me the way? Who's gonna show me? And that's kind of another thing that I learned from, source, just your journey, that oftentimes, uh, your life's gonna put you into a situation where, the thing that you don't really want to do is the thing that you got to do. And I didn't know anything really. I kind of wanted someone to take me by the hand, and I just had to kind of figure it out myself. And I'm so like eager to just be that outlet for people, because I know how that feels when you're trying to look for something and there's nothing. And I just want to be that beacon, that place where people can look for. So I'm doing a lot of workshops. I do workshops. I just try to put the information out there, even though like I don't feel all the time adequate to be the teacher. Like I was forced to be in that situation. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That's a beautiful story. You should be really proud of yourself and understand that teaching is just an expression of what you know. But as the learner, the journey never ends, right?
Absolutely.
I know what I know because I was like you. I was very driven. I was revolting. I was freshly divorced, pissed off at the world. I didn't like accumulating money because all that, when you accumulate that money, everyone's trying to steal it from you. And if it effed up my ex-wife, like she became so fixated on money that she lost her common sense. Right? Like she couldn't think straight. And, maybe that's some of it was hormonal imbalance, or the fact that we don't get quality food and vitamins, and our bodies are, in stress mode, and you can't think clearly, right? So it could have been any one of those combinations, but the way she handled the divorce and what she did to me clearly said that this woman realized she's doing something really wrong and has to justify her actions by spinning horrible lies about me all over town, to my children. And, I forgave her for the divorce. I forgave her for stealing over $250,000 out of my business account, bankrupting me, maxing my credit cards out. She was malicious in the way she handled it, right? So, I forgave her for all that shit. But when it comes to programming my children, taking them away from me, when that was what I lived for, I lived for her. I lived for those kids. I killed myself. I built an empire for them, so they would be able to enjoy a really nice life. And then to steal it all away and feed it to lawyers and lose both houses because she just kept fighting and fighting and fighting. Like she somehow in her pea brain, she thought that she was going to get $20,000 a month child support at both houses. The judge laughed at her and said, "That's ridiculous. Like, he doesn't make $20,000 a month, right?" But she was talking with these rich divorced women, and they were plotting and planning. So there's. Anyway, I want to get off that subject because that's not the.
Honestly, I think we're going in a direction where like 2020 was a big, huge change for me, because that program, that like mindset that you're talking about was like we got the gears going all the time, and 2020 had us like slow down. And I was privileged at that time for many reasons, that I got to slow down and I got to find myself and I got to go out and learn things. And I got the opportunity to look at these things, to look at money, because I got to see how money was making me, what money was doing to me. I got to see what my limitations, what I'm saying, was doing to me, and how that was like, if I didn't have that time to just slow down, and say, okay, right now all I have is time, and I got this time to reflect. And like I got into the edible landscaping business during that time. And I even got, when you get to do what you desire, what you love to do, and then you have to make ends meet with it, I props to, farmers and everyone that's doing that. But I know you oftentimes, and I had to go through that, where I had to check myself, reflect, like, okay, what am I doing this for? You know what I'm saying? Where is this taking me? So I'm saying all of that to say, like, you know, life is going to take us through moments where sometimes we don't have that opportunity to slow down and see, reflect. And fortunately, I got that opportunity to do that. And it made me so much more wiser and powerful. And like, I had to get out of the scene. I had to get out of the scene because I had to really make money. And I was so grateful for that because it took me out of edible landscaping where I had to like really grind and make that dollar. And now I just got, I got a 9 to 5, regular 9 to 5. It's not something I want to do for the rest of my life, but I got to take myself out of that and slow down again. Now I don't have to think about making my ends meet with that. And this is just my story. This is my journey, how it had to happen for me. You know what I'm saying? Because 2 kids, all of that stuff, like it's just really hard to focus on all of that. So I got the opportunity to go back into 9 to 5. And I think it was God's way of saying, hey, um, let's let me help you make ends meet so that you can kind of go about this more passionately rather than trying to figure out how to tie everything in. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what Eco Hustle is about. It was my way of saying, all right, um, some people aren't going to be able to really transition to, doing the things that they're passionate about. So in the meantime, you could kind of create a little hustle aside from it, like bridge that gap in the meantime while you're trying to get to that other space. So Eco Hustle really is about like figuring out how to bridge the world. You know what I'm saying? From where you have a 9 to 5, you know what I'm saying, and you want to do, you want to get into maybe the world of edible landscaping or gardening or composting. But in the meantime, while you're trying to get across that bridge, let's make little steps. Let's like do little hustles and stuff like that, bridging the world between the things that you're really interested in and the world that you want to be in after that. So we could talk.
Oh man, I mean,
Yeah.
preach, brother, preach. I mean, your discussion of God and spirituality is huge, right? I mean, that if you open your mind to the influence, whether it's the universe, the stars, your God, whoever it is, right? In lovingly, right? Not this isn't about blowing shit up and killing people. This is about like finding who you are as a spirit.
Right.
Is the most important journey anyone can ever take.
Right.
Because otherwise you're going to stay trapped on the gerbil wheel chasing the dollar. When you get the dollar, it's like, now what do I do? Oh, I buy stuff. Oh, great, but I don't have time to use the stuff, right?
Yeah.
Dude, you should have seen what I had at the end. And it was like, when I got my head out of my ass after the divorce, I was like, I'm throwing everything away. Like, I had shit stored from years ago that I never even knew I had that, and why. But I was programmed, just like what you're talking about. So the first step is always spirituality.
Yeah.
Find your soul, find your heart, find what you love to do. If you find what you love to do, you are going to be good at it, and the money will come if you trust the process.
Right.
But like,
you're right.
You had to make a step. You had to step back a little, right? So that you could figure out how to pursue that journey that your spirit wants you to do. The world wants you to do it, right? 2020 was the most evil, but the most incredible time for humanity. After that, I started receiving emails, texts, people reaching out saying, I want to understand soil more. I want to understand my health more. I really want to learn what you've been talking about for years. And still to this day, it was like the spigot got turned on.
Mm.
I started getting people locally who wanted good compost and wanted to grow their own vegetables or at least have a healthy landscape for them and their dogs to live in. And before that, dude, I fought tooth and nail. I struggled like you would not believe to open people's eyes. And I was still very blessed. Like I came out of Rodale after 18 months, 3 to 4 days a week with Dr. Lane under her wing. Like she introduced me to all these other scientists, all these different perspectives, ideas, from raising animals with vegetables, with, all of these cross connections that allow us to regenerate the soil, right? Make the soil super healthy again. And then it's less work and the yields go up and the animals don't get sick. And, all these beautiful downstream results of worshiping or caring about the soil. And so to hear that from a young person, that gives me purpose to keep doing these podcasts. Like, you don't understand how long I've been doing this, and it wears on me. I quit, and Ken and his wife just called me up and just beat the shit out of me until I agreed to come back on. And I'm like, but I've already shared everything I know. Yes, what I knew, but I'm still learning. Like, dude,
that's what it's about, man.
Yeah, some of the shit I'm learning now, and some of the interesting things scientifically, like they were able to put a camera into a living soil system that is microscopic, so you could see the little organisms, you can see the fungi, you can see all the stuff going on for 50 days. And it all started about a year ago when they created a lens that would self-clean, because as soon as that lens is in there for a day, maybe even not even a day, it gets biofilmed, right? Almost instantly the biofilm comes, and now it's blurred. You can't see anything. So they developed this lens for this thing, and then these guys have taken it to the next level and have gotten all the way up to 50 days now. And video,
crazy,
mycorrhizae, sharing information, water, organisms, like all the shit that we didn't even know was existing.
No, we're super spoiled nowadays. We really are.
It's amazing, and you were brought up on technology. I never touched a computer till I was 45. I was handed this thing and said, "Figure it out." I was like, "Oh, dude, I hated my computer. I still have a lot of arguments with it, but at the first I hated it. But I've learned how to use it to research responsibly. Like, don't Google something. You want Google Scholar, where the real data is. But I figured out how to transition into it. So you have everything behind you to be a rock star in the future. And look, as you find questions that you can't get answered, text me, shoot me a DM. I'll be more than happy to share with you. I need you to carry this torch. I'm never going to be able to do it forever, right? I have health issues. I'm beating the shit out of my body just trying to stay alive in this rat race called California. So we need an army of you. And
100%.
Yeah. And
100%.
You could be the person that spearheads that in your area.
Yeah, no, every time I do my workshops, I learn so much more. I tell the people that attend them, it's more like a meetup anyway to me, because I'm doing it because everyone there is sharpening me up, and I'm honestly trying to like inspire the person that I feel like maybe can teach this, or maybe can like bridge that gap a little better than I can, so to speak, maybe, and I'm always like, hey, I'm out here just looking for other minions to go out and just keep spreading the message, keep spreading the word.
I think the most valuable lesson I can teach you is that we all have pieces of the puzzle. It takes years and years of experience, hard work, drive, never quitting to start to assemble those pieces into a picture or a story that now others can learn from, that wouldn't have been able to put those pieces together. So those workshops or those get-togethers are invaluable because each person's got something to contribute, right? And if you stand back at the end of the meetup and you all look at what you discuss and say, wow, I learned this from you, I learned that from you, you learned this from me. Look what we've done together as a collective, and stop fighting and arguing and letting ego run you, man. I worked so hard in these groups, Soil Food Web, Korean natural farming when it was first being introduced to the West Coast, natural farming, JDOM, biodynamics, all these different groups that are independent of each other. They all end up doing the same thing, but they fight each other. It's ridiculous. And
human nature.
Yeah, dude, that's the problem, is that we've been programmed to believe that if someone has an opinion, F them, they need to learn my opinion, right? And no, it should be both. You should be learning from each other. Ken has a wonderful saying, and it's learn what you can from each different teacher, take what feels best, and leave the rest behind. And I'll let him use his quotation. But it's the truth, right?
No, that's wise.
They're fighting each other instead of working together. Imagine if they all came together and promoted this whole system and not just their little piece of the puzzle. How much further along we would have been by now.
And that's where we come back to like the money and there's that ego that comes with it, and sometimes that limiting thing because I gotta be the one, I gotta be the expert. That's why I feel so funny even saying that word. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
because
I hate
it just feels, it just doesn't. I'm all about like open source. That's what I love about like, a lot of like the space that we're in. There are different areas where, whether it be like Bukashi, that's why that book, Teruhiga's work really stuck out to me when I read his book. That book that he put out, I'm forgetting the name, but it was all about like being open source, and the no gatekeeping, and that's what I love about like, a lot of people in the space where they're like, this is easy. This is like, I'm not trying to teach you anything that hasn't been, taught, and just decentralizing this and being open source and just trying to remind people. That's what I was saying in my last workshop. I'm like, hey, I'm not teaching y'all anything new. I'm just trying to bring back that knowledge, that information that we've been taught, the fermentation, this fermenting knowledge and whatnot. That's just been in the lineage. We just forgot, So I encourage people to like to let go of that limiting belief, that limiting talk of like, this is mine, or like I'm the only one that has the sauce, or whatever it is. Like, it's about you. Like, if people are going to support you because they like who you are, it's not necessarily the product or whatever it is or what you're saying. It's because people have an affinity to who you are, the energy that you're bringing to this space,
Dude, you're a lot deeper than most people. No, how old are you?
I'm 35.
Dude, I didn't learn this shit till I was probably at least 45 was the turning point. But before that, I was dabbling in spirituality. Like, I read the Bible, I looked at the Quran, I tried to understand, Buddhism and Taoism and all these different religions when I probably starting around 40s, right? But it didn't really come to light until after that divorce, and I had time to really kind of ferment on all of the things that I had learned, and understanding, like, I didn't know I was an empath until I met Pauline. I struggled my whole life being teased, being picked on, because I had a different energy than other people around me, and I didn't understand that they could feel it. Maybe they couldn't see it, but that's what made other people nervous. Like, the popular people hated me, and they would tease me and beat on me because maybe, like I said, they could feel the positivity that they did not have. Now, I don't want, we can dwell a little bit more on that, but I have a question for you. Have you ever read What a Plant Knows?
No, I don't. No.
Write that down. That's a really big part of this. We now know for sure validated scientifically, peer reviewed. Plants have 20 senses that we know of, and we believe there's more. And basically, we know that when we walk into a garden or we hug a tree, there's an exchange of energy. It's verified. It's validated. There's no denying that fact. Plants have 20 senses. We have 5. 6 if you believe in ESP, right? Who's growing who?
Right.
Like we've destroyed, and nature comes back.
Yeah.
So who's growing who? Like once we die off, well, hey, if we get a pandemic and we all die at the same time, we're compost material. Soil will gobble us up and the plants will grow back, and this environment will go back to the Garden of Eden it was before we effed it up.
It's arrogance, man. Like we're arrogant to think that we're like above the system. We're above, nature.
But that's been programmed because they don't want us to question why they're destroying this shit to make money. Look, there's this billionaire I've been working with lately, and we got off topic one day. It was like I could tell he wanted to be more like friends at that moment, and not a lot less about the work that I needed to do for him. Mm. And so I looked up at his water towers on the mountain. I said, "By any chance are those, solar powered?" He goes, "No. Why would you ask?" I go, "Well, a buddy of mine, Craig Trester, and I laugh about the fact that when shit goes sideways, and it's gonna inevitably, right? Sooner or later, whether it's the robots and the Terminators or a virus, whatever, shit's gonna go sideways. Money's gonna have no value because there's no food, there's no water. You can't go to the store and buy it. You can't put gas in your tank to get to the store, right? First couple of days, everything is gonna get rioted and stripped, and the whole distribution system comes down. I told this to my kids at a young age, and I think I horrified them. But I'm like, never move to a city because if shit happens, they're out of food and water in days, literally days. If you're in the country, now you have a chance. Maybe you have to kill a squirrel, all right, or maybe you have to go to someone who's got a garden and say, "Hey, let me work for you, and pay me in food," right? So that's critical thinking. Yeah. And so I said that to him. And I go, "What's anything going to be worth other than the ability to grow your own food and supply your own water?" He goes, "I think I'm going to add those solar panels real soon." Because he knows. Yeah. He knows. As long as he can pump the groundwater out into that cistern, he's never going to run out of water. He's got a 150-acre ranch in Thousand Oaks, California. It's the most gorgeous weather in the world out here. Like it's always 75 and sunny, except for when we have our rainy season. And
the solutions are always so simple, and they always reflect nature. You know what I mean? That solar panel is just a reflection of the sun, so it's just like, we always like to overcomplicate things and make things super complicated. Let me try that.
Well, I mean, the beauty of the solar panel is that it can run the pump that pumps the water up to the cistern, which gravity flows back to his farm. So it's that step of taking the system out of play, taking control of your environment. And homesteaders, man, I hope someday soon you could get a homestead and grow your own vegetables and have people come out and learn classes and do what you love. I mean, that would be my prayer for you.
Yeah, I have my little garden in my backyard, and when I was designing it, I was like, do I want to grow all the food, or do I just want like a little demonstration to inspire people? Because ultimately, homesteading is a lot of work, man. Like is hella work. And I got 2 kids. My sister will probably do much better than me because she got 10 kids, but I got 2 kids, and ultimately, I want to grow with a community. Like I want to just inspire people to see, like I made it big enough for me to haven't, I'm not going to grow. Maybe let's say I'll grow 25% or whatever, but I designed it in the way where I was like, I don't want to grow everything because I don't want to be chained. Because we even in the natural systems, we try to chain ourselves. I feel that, at least from my observation, in my opinion. Like I had a lot of time to think too. So I'm like, do I want to create another enslavement? Do I want to be enslaved to, the
A piece
garden,
of
let's say,
land. A
right, a
piece of
piece of land, or do I want to do it like our ancestors did in community? You know what I'm saying? Do I want to do it like compost is teaching me in diversification? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, no,
like,
I was giving you what I thought was a sheltered, place to go shelter away from the shitstorm
for
that's
sure,
coming. But you're right. You need to be mobile. Like I will never buy another house. I will only rent because if
that's
I don't
right.
like my neighbors, I can move.
That's
Right?
right.
I have freedom. I can move wherever the hell I want.
That's currency.
So I think that you figured that out, which is really important because you're not going to make a misstep.
Yeah.
And the
Cause I get overwhelmed, man. I do. Like, I don't know. It could be the neurodivergence or whatever it is. Even like, and so you mentioned the Bible earlier, and I was like, one of the stories I really, I always feel connected to is Moses. You know what I'm saying? When God told Moses, Moses was like almost illiterate, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like he didn't feel adequate. And I oftentimes feel like that. Like, why? Even when y'all reached out to me, I was like, why me? Like, what did y'all see in my page that like I feel like that I'm adequate to come and talk on this podcast? You know what I'm saying? So oftentimes I feel that connection to that story of Moses because I'm like, why? Like, why am I the one? Why am I the one to come speak?
don't
You know what
take
I'm saying?
laughter wrong, dude.
No, no, it's
I'm
because I laugh about it. I
I'm
laugh about it.
I'm going to share with you. Well, first thing, always keep in mind, if you're not uncomfortable, you will not learn.
Bro.
All of our lessons, humanity is stupid. We only learn when we make a mistake, which is a lesson in itself. And as long as you never repeat that, you are not going insane. If you continue to make that mistake over and over, expecting a different result, that is the definition of insanity. So as long as you learn from these lessons, you are getting stronger, wiser, and smarter. Now, the two people that I most uh, relate to in the Bible is John the Baptist, because I've been screaming in the desert like a lunatic for fucking years about this. 20 years I've been screaming in the desert, right? And very, very few people came and listened. And the other person is Paul. Paul was a devout anti-Christian.
Right.
He wanted to kill the Christians, burn them alive. He got zapped. His eyesight's got taken away. And then he got taught a lesson. And then he came out as one of the most important pieces of the Bible puzzle. Like what he wrote was amazing and truthful. Like a lot of people want to say, "Oh, the Bible's fiction." Blah blah. No, it's not fiction. And I had a long conversation with a pastor. This is something you probably need to hear. I had 3 kids. And I woke up one day and I was like, I'm a horrible father. I am not exposing them to religion so that they can decide if this is something that they want to, look at or go down the rabbit hole. And so I went to the local congregational church.
Sure.
And I sat in the back row, first time there, and just watched, just kind of felt, what was going on in the vibe. And about toward the end, after the pastor gave the sermon, a gentleman came up and sat next to me. Now, I'm still kind of focused on what's going on. This is kind of a new experience. I haven't been there since I was 18. And the guy starts talking to me. He says, "Hey, can I help you? It's good to see you." And I was like, "Yeah, thanks, man." And I told him, I said, I have kids now, and I feel the responsibility to at least expose them to this.
Right.
So that's beautiful. And that's really beautiful. I mean, we have no membership. You can come and go as you want. And I'm like, I looked over and I'm like, holy shit, that's the pastor. I think I just saw him giving the sermon. And so the church was over. He got up and shook everybody's hands on the way out. I just sat there and kind of like, figuring shit out. Like, what am I doing here? Why am I here? So I was the last person out, and he said, "Hey, come back inside. Let's talk for a few minutes." And so I started talking with him, and he goes, "Yeah, religion's kind of forced on us, and we're felt guilty if we don't, pledge 10% of our money, and there's a lot of kind of negative things about organized religion." And I said, "Wow, I've never heard a pastor talk like that." He goes, yeah, even I go through struggles. Like, I'm trying to take this church in a new direction. I'm trying to bring in some Christian music and more, like, you heard my sermon. It was not like totally Bible driven. It was more about, the consciousness of humanity and how, we need to listen to our spirit and let God or Jesus, whatever you believe in, guide us. And that's hard for a lot of people. They want to stay entrenched in this system because this is the system they know and this is what they know, right? And so I was like, wow, you're a beautiful dude. He goes, well, thank you. By the way, I could use some help. I'm like, huh? He goes, I'm teaching, what's it called? When the older kids go through, not conversion, it's a rite of passage for certain teens to get confirmation.
Okay.
So I'm like, well, dude, I don't think I'm really capable of that. He goes, no. I got the whole lesson plan. All you have to do is show up and follow the lesson. I said, well, I guess I could do that. And he goes, you don't understand how much I appreciate this. Right now, I'm trying to run 2 classes. The first year classes and the second year classes so that they can graduate. I can't be in 2 rooms at once. And every time I leave one room to go teach in the other classroom, that classroom erupts in childish behavior. I just need somebody like a babysitter. So we got to be good friends, dude. I taught confirmation, believe it or not.
Wow.
My wife got jealous because I brought my children to school, and also she wanted to go back to Catholic church. She had been to Catholic church for freaking years. Right. So then we were like 1 week at Catholic church, 1 week at my congregational church. And it only went so far until Paula was like, no, I don't want them in that church. They have to be Catholic. We went through pre-Cana. We promised to bring these children up Catholic. Yeah, it's power control, right? That's not loving, open-minded. That's I'm going to control you.
Right.
So needless to say, one of the most valuable lessons Skip, the pastor, taught me was I asked a question like, well, dude, like, why did Jesus come when he came? I believe this dude was here because there were scholars. People didn't know how to write and read, but yet there were all these manuscripts written about this dude. Some of it has to be truth. Where there's fucking smoke, there's fire somewhere, whether it's smoldering or whether it's blazing. It don't matter. Smoke, fire. That's it. Right? There's no smoke without any fire.
Right.
And he said, well, Leighton, that's a very good question. Let me explain to you why. Okay. So he goes, he came after the Romans had pretty much conquered the Mediterranean. They were still moving north and up toward England eventually, but they had taken control of the Middle East. And what the Romans allowed for the first time in history was for travel. Before, if you traveled from your village to another village, you were either instantly killed or enslaved. Because that other group spoke a different language, and the fact that you showed up means you got thrown out of your village. Something bad happened in that village, and they don't want that to happen in their village. So they kill you or enslave you, and that's it. Right. So there was no way to communicate between the villages, right? Because if you went there, you got killed or enslaved. So, wow, that's a good point. And he goes, plus, more importantly, people weren't closed-minded like they are today. Leighton, what do you think would happen to Jesus if he came in today? In 2000 and whatever it was. I go, damn, they'd lock that guy up and throw him in a mental institution and drug him. Right? That's too crazy. You start fucking turning water into wine and bringing people back from the dead. That scared the fuck out of us.
Right.
Right? You understand. Their minds were not closed to the programming that we've lived through for the last X amount of hundreds of years, right? Mm-hmm. And so it was the time for the seed to grow and the word to spread and the love to be shown, proper manners, do unto other, all of that stuff. People were open to it because it only made sense. Like, why would I hurt that guy and not expect him to come back and F me up, right? But before that, it was like, hide behind your power. Oh, I got a bigger army. We're going to come in and kill you and take your resources. It was all that chaos that was going on. And so people wanted this message. They didn't want to get sucked into that war and territorialism and money and power and control. They just wanted to live their life, right? They just wanted to get up every day and collect their food and grow their family and have a relationship with themselves, the land, and the people around them. Mm. So that's why he came when he came. And I was like, damn, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And people were so enamored by this dude that all of the scribes, all the people that could write and read, had to friggin' write about it because they were so like, oh my God, listen to this message. This makes so much sense. We would all be a better species if we followed this direction, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, so I acquaint to, you know, that dude, that friggin' Paul that just took it to the next level.
Yeah.
And really fucking even got converted the Romans.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot we can learn from all of that. You know, I don't close myself off to any, like, even in the, like we were saying before, even in the space of like regenerative farming, like I don't close myself off to, you know, Korean natural farming, or even like now I just saw a video with Matt Powers talking about thermophilic composting, and now you could have the two camps of like static, you know, passive composting. Passive composting and the thermophilic. Like we could entertain all these things at the same time and, you know, kind of coexist together.
Dude, I did a real deep dive on the difference between thermophilic and mesophilic. So mesophilic compost means less than 130. And it hits 130, it's considered thermophilic because the thermophytes take over and push the mesophilics out. The reason mesophilic compost is so powerful is because you didn't cook off all the minerals, all the extra polymetric substances, the biofilms left by the biology. You didn't burn it, right? And if you make mesophilic compost, which is what I do, I've been doing it for years. I've never understood why it works so well. But
it's amazing.
I really deep dive, like literally a week or two ago.
It's crazy because I gave the workshop I did, like I was trying to explain the comparison between, you know, composting and fermentation. And then like the I think the same day Matt Powers like put out his like explanation of like compost has its limitations. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to explain. How like the fermentation, you're locking all those nutrients in, you know, and you're not oxidizing.
You be careful about using the word fermentation because fermentation is when you let something sour or anaerobic. Okay. Anaerobic compost kills shit. You want to use the word mesophilic, less than 130. And basically, I mix this stuff together. I water it, I stab it, and I leave the thermometers in there. As soon as I see it starting to climb, as soon as it gets over 120, 125, I flip it all over, water it, and leave it sit until it goes back up. And I keep doing it until it becomes ambient. And what I consider ambient is not the temperature around us. There's all these organisms in there. And so it's going to stay warm in there. So anywhere between 80 and 90 degrees, I consider finished compost because it doesn't go, it's not going up anymore. It's just staying at that temperature. So it's safe. It has completed the heat burn off process. And when you look at that compost that went through that process and it's no longer heating up, oh my God, put it on the microscope, mind blown. You put it on a plant, mind blown. Everybody around you is blown. So look, we have got to have a longer conversation. You are incredibly inspiring. We do have 5 questions. Excuse me, I'd like to get through those.
Sure.
And then we're going to continue where we left off. Because I know
you're one
of the most powerful effing soldiers on the planet. You are going to run the state of Florida. As so-and-so wrote, let's go EcoHustle. That's the Florida squad. All right?
Yeah, that's Mo, man. Shout out to Mo. Appreciate him. He's an OG.
Nice.
So we'll start with this question. What are the challenges of composting in Florida?
What are the challenges of composting in Florida?
I can answer it for you.
Yeah, help me out with that one.
All right. You have humidity and rain. huge. I was in New England in Connecticut, and I would make static piles. I would do it like what we call hugelkultur style. So I'd take a big old rotten log, it has to be rotten. I'd cut new perennial branches off the trees and build a teepee across the top of that. Then I would cover hay over that. And then I would mix my compost and pile it on top of that. When I was done, I would water it, often give it a little compost extract, and then I would plant it. And those plants hold the moisture in, create a microclimate, so I don't have to water it all the time because we had rain and we had humidity. And the plants shot out miles of roots. Well, guess what's in the roots? The very biology you want to get in your pile. So when the pile is done and ready to harvest, I just rip up the root, shake everything off of my could. We call that a rhizo sheath, which is loaded with microbes. And then I'd start harvesting it. And I'd make a pile in spring, harvest in fall, make a pile in fall, harvest in spring. 6 months, hands off. But the key was that I built that teepee. So as the pile heated up through convection, it could suck cold air in through the sides and just push the heat right out of the pile. So you have the ability to do that. There's a dude down near you called Third Eye Tiger. Perky, you should go to Instagram, connect with him on Instagram, and he'll give you the course. Tell him.
I think one of my superpowers is probably keeping things simple. I think one of the problems here is just it's hot. Like you said, it's hot, it gets humid, and it rains. So people don't want to be out there composting. That's why I like to teach Bukashi, because it's like, yo, just put it in a bucket, let it kind of do its thing static, just keep it simple. I think the difficulty is people, or just the difficulty of composting is, all the work that goes into it. That may not be like the kind of general, like the atmosphere, like answer to that question, but we just overcomplicate things. I just
so watch the video. You'll see I make this pile in half an hour. No effort, right? No effort.
That's what I'm talking about.
Water it, leave it alone. And just come back 6 months later and you'll have black gold.
That's what I'm talking about.
So
That's how I do it, yeah.
3-Eye Tiger, hook up with him. You guys are on the same wavelength. You're living the same way. And he has been a friend of mine since my daughter was in high school. He didn't like going upstairs with the older kids and partying. His brother would bring him because he had to. And so he'd sit down in the kitchen with me, chopping it up about all this shit. So he really became a mentee in junior in high school, or even younger. I think he was a sophomore in high school. So he's a great guy. Ken can testify to how powerful that boy is.
And Pablo, I'll hook you up. I'll send you his email so you guys.
What was the name again?
His name is Jimmy Perkins, but he goes by 3-Eye Tiger on Instagram. Don't worry, Ken's gonna hook you up. For sure. You guys got to get together.
No doubt.
Got to get together. Both on the same damn path. He can help you speed that path up.
Right on.
All right.
Let's go to the next question. Is what are the differences in anaerobic bokashi, aerobic bokashi, and dry bokashi composting?
I don't think you can.
I mean, from my understanding, bokashi is an anaerobic process. It's a sealed environment per se. So I'm question's a little confusing for me. But bokashi, as far as I understand it, it's an anaerobic process. You're keeping it in a sealed environment, similar to any type of fermentation process, like when you're fermenting vegetables or what have you.
Yep, no, that's spot on answer. I think you could do an experiment, but because typically you keep a lot of liquid, like it's not dry bokashi. It's not like an IMO 1, right? IMO 1, you don't add a lot of water. It's really important that every time it hits a certain temperature, I think that temperature is 130, that you have to flip it. If you add water, the shit goes ballistic. So you can't add water. So that's could be considered a dry fermentation, but I would consider it more of a dry composting, But I'd love it if you filled, made some bokashi, with a lot of liquid in it, and put a
Yeah, I
little.
mean, I throw liquid in my stuff. Yeah.
Put a bubbler on it. See what happens, man. Maybe you've invented a new thing, the better way for it to bokashi down to a bile.
That's why I'm trying to work with people. I'm trying to teach people because I'm limited to myself. Like I want to work with like schools, and stuff like that. Cause I want go figure, let's pass the baton and let's get people like what Mo is doing out here, like just teaching the kids, teaching, the next gen so that they can unlock different things and figure out different that I got into teaching because I felt like I had no idea what I was, I had no idea what I was like learning. So I had to like I wanted like other people to ask me questions and like, I don't know the answer. Can you go figure it out? You know what I mean? Like, let's figure it out together. So that's kind of like where I'm going with this, because I'm only one person. I'm not trying to have all the answers. I don't really want to have all the answers. Let's go figure it out together.
We will never have all the answers.
Right,
not with science moving forward. And an expert is a definition of someone that knew something at some point in time and only repeats that. They don't go beyond what they learned, and that's sad. It's why are you an expert? Because I learned this, and this is what I teach.
Yeah,
learning is a lifetime journey.
Definitely. So the next question: it would be good to see more eco side hustles. Would you say? What's that?
I agree.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Would you say that foraging is an eco side hustle, and how?
Hey, I mean, would I say foraging is eco side? I don't want to say like I don't want to be like the person that says what this is. Like you could figure out what it means to you. What it means to me is like what can foraging? Sure, you could lead a class in foraging, and that could be your little hustle. People pay you for that experience, and that could be your little side hustle there. So absolutely, I think anything can become like an eco hustle as long as what it means to me is where you bridge your interests with like getting that bag. You know what I mean? Like I'm interested or what you already doing in your life. Like I'm composting anyway, whether or not I'm like taking that into my community, whether it be through bartering or sharing, doesn't necessarily have to be through money. But however you merge that world and bring your interests into the community, that's an eco hustle. Like you just hustling, you teaching it. Like I said, whether or not you're making money from it, it's there's other ways to make money. That was another thing I had to unlock and take off of myself. It got to be money. I just did a workshop. You know how I got paid from that workshop? Through plants, because I wanted plants in my garden. So I was like, hey, y'all got plants. I got this thing, that I could bring people here to buy plants from you. Let me get. So I don't have like, I think we should really release these limitations of like money all the time. It always got to be the dollar. You know what I'm saying? We could get into bartering and figure out how to bridge that exchange, that currency. You know what I'm saying? Let's not limit currency.
There was a great app that was barter something, and it allowed doctors to hire painters. It allowed the painters to get dentistry. It allowed the painter to get free groceries at the local food market because he would go and paint for them. It was beautiful.
Ooh,
and then they took it down. They took it down because now the IRS even asks you if you've bartered because they want a piece of that barter. It's
man. Barter's underground, man. That's countercultural. That's counterculture.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly right. Barter underground.
Yeah, it's underground.
And one thing that I would warn people about foraging is you have to do it respectfully. Like you have to bring something in before you take, and never take everything. Only take a small percentage because you want to be able to come back to there and forage again. And you don't want people going in there and just stripping everything because then it won't come back. Some of the shit takes 10, 15 years to grow.
I like to say it's holistic hustling. That's what eco hustle is. So like what you're saying, like do it in a holistic way, in a way that maybe regenerative or what have you. Let's look at everything from a whole. You know what I'm saying? It's not just going there and extract all the time.
Right. That's the problem with humanity is, oh, I found it. I'm going to take it all. And it's done huge damage for all kinds of mushroom species up north, where they go in and they harvest, these chagas. It takes 15, 20 years to grow a chaga. And so they just went and strip all this whole grove of all of them instead of leaving more than 50% behind, so they can come back next year or 10 years, whatever it takes, or harvest a little bit every year until
nature.
Yeah.
Nature's our teacher, and nature teaches abundance. You know what I mean? So, you take some, you put it back, and it keeps that cycle going.
Agreed. And if you're going in empty-handed, you're wrong. You should bring in some compost, some organic matter, whatever, something in an equal volume of what you're taking out, because you're protecting against what's called karma kicking your ass.
Big time. Mm-hmm. And guys, for anybody that doesn't know, private members associations,
be amazing.
Outside of the government purview, they can't be touched on that back end by the IRS. So there's membership associations out there you can look into, and it is a way to get around that IRS blockade, I guess I would call it.
Nice. Thanks, Ken.
Not a problem. I should bring on a couple of people to talk about it, but I haven't, because it can be a very interesting
gray area.
Yeah. Well, the algorithm gets really mad at me when I talk about stuff like that, Leighton, the book you mentioned, Leighton, what is that name of the book mentioned that's important?
There's a few versions. The one I read was What a Plant Knows. There are some even better versions of that, but start with searching that, and the algorithm will work for you instead of against you and give you other suggested reading material along those lines. But most incredibly powerful. Oh my God, plants do that? Mm-hmm. I think it has 10 or 12 senses in that book, but we know now it's up to 20. Plus, could be a lot more.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
And our last question, Pablo, is there a community garden in your area? Can you join an environmental commission in your town? You would be quite an asset.
Is there a community? There's probably a couple of them. They're really starting to pick back up. 2020 really took a lot of community gardening and whatnot out. So when I first got down here, it was ghost town, but I'm sure I've been to a couple of them and seen some stuff, but really I'm out here just trying to connect with it. So I have been connecting with, local nurseries, the kind of homeschooling movement and micro school movement and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm trying to connect with any and whoever and create, a more local community garden close to me. So thank you for that. Yeah, I'm always trying to connect and tie those loose ends.
Cool.
Dude, you're an incredible inspiration. I know you're going far. You don't know, you don't have the self-confidence yet. That's fine. That will come with experience. But
no, I got it. I feel like, through all this experience I've been because what I was saying earlier, and I'm gonna keep this short because I know you gotta go. But that inadequacy, I feel like maybe it's not the best word, but I feel like that's one of my superpowers, because it allows me to show people that you don't have to be this expert. You could be a regular person, 9 to 5, you know what I'm saying? Not really just an enthusiast, and you could do that. And I think that's my kind of MO. I'm out here trying to inspire the regular average Joe. Listen, I got a 9 to 5 just like you, and I'm still doing this thing, and I might not have all the experience because maybe I have some sort of my learning, capabilities are different than people. So I kind of have to keep things simple for myself. So I personally, that's like my thing, where I have to keep things simple, because I could become a little anxious when I have too much information. So I may say that and it may come across as like I'm not confident, but my confidence has come from that God put me in this place because some people are going to see me and relate to that. Like, oh, that's how he looks. That's crazy. Okay. He if I could do it, so can you. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
You're serving as an inspiration.
There it is. 100%. That's why I do this.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. And if you're doing what you love, don't worry, the money will come. Just like
100%.
And
it's here, baby.
It always does. Just like you being reaffirmed by Matt Powers talking about what you were talking about earlier that day. That's an affirmation.
That was crazy to me. I was like, I was just talking about that.
That's the universe affirming that you're doing the right thing. You know what 100%. I saw today 3 times? I saw a hawk swoop down and nail something. I couldn't tell what it was. But when they're diving, and he went behind a compost pile. So I saw that, and then I went up and did something up top where I'm working at the compost yard. And on the way back down, because I had to get a different tool, I saw that hawk with like a 5-foot snake sitting on the compost, like getting ready to eat it. And I scared it. So it tried to fly away, and it was like dragging the snake across the deck of the compost yard. And I'm like, wow, you don't see that shit every day, right? So I go down and get the tool, I come back up, and there's the bird eating the snake. So I went, Google, what is the spiritual meaning behind a hawk and a snake together? Google it, search it, see what it says. Like, you should do that, man. The animals are spiritual signs. They're telling you, they're affirming your thoughts or what you're doing. Like, I often see these freaking hawks circling around my head when I'm like on a deep dive. I'm like, oh, how am I going to get out of this problem? How am I going to fix this? Or how am I going to do that?
Yeah.
The hawk is the messenger saying you're on the right path. Dude, get some animal spiritual cards, dude.
100%. It's a cool story. When I first put my garden, like the week after I just finished installing like our garden here that we have, I had an owl. We never seen an owl here.
Bam!
Right on the power line. And we was just staring at it. Like, I called the family and we was like, holy cow, we never seen an owl here. And, we understand like the power of animals and all that stuff and the hierarchy of an owl. We've never seen it. I haven't seen it again, since that. And we just put the garden in. So I already knew that was Source saying energy here is being established. And, there's this hierarchy thing. So
look at how connected this dude is, Kat. At this point,
I know.
This is beautiful. It's fucking beautiful.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I'm here to help you, man, because you're going to carry the torch someday.
And we're going to be bringing him back here in a month and a half or so when we have our next opening.
All right, brother. I wish you most respect, honor, and appreciation for who you are and what you're doing.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for holding space for me.
I'm here. Text me, DM me, whatever. I'll get right back to you. And Ken, as always, thank you for all the hard work, general hard work, and working to keep this channel alive and this message to continue. So, blessed to both of you guys.
Soul matters, baby. I love it.
It's all about the biology.
Soil matters. They just think it's this media underneath their feet. It's the whole life. It's everything comes from the soil and goes back to the soil. So soil fucking matters.
Oh yeah, that's the way to end it right there.
All right, guys. There's no show with me and Andy on Wednesday. He's got dental surgery, but don't forget the ladies are on Thursday. If you want to take care of your own body, check out Chiropractic is Sexy, because that's going to help you understand how to get the energy flowing in your body properly so that you can be healthy. And I know Leighton needs to get his head snapped off a couple of times by a good chiropractor too. Anyway, guys, love you all. Pablo, hang out. We'll be in the back in a second, but guys, take care. We love you all.
All right. Peace out, man.